Welcome to today's deep dive. We're pulling from a really fascinating stack of sources today, centered around a story from the HFY Humanity sci-fi genre.
Yeah, it's an incredible genre.
It really is. And our mission today is to kind of extract the core insights from what seems on the surface like this cinematic space opera, but it's actually this brilliant thought experiment.
Right, because we are essentially exploring the mechanics of rapid evolution and, the sociological impact of total isolation.
Exactly. And ultimately, how absolute power interacts with the concept of forgiveness. So to set the stage for all of this, I want you to imagine a scenario.
Okay.
You live in this massive ancient neighborhood, and you're the new kid on the block. Okay. You're ambitious, a little loud, maybe moving a bit too fast for the established residents.
Making waves, essentially.
Right, exactly. And then one day, every single neighbor on your street forms a coalition, and they have one goal: to get rid of you.
Wow. Just a unanimous, coordinated effort to remove a perceived threat from the ecosystem.
Yeah. They break down your door, they dismantle everything you've built, and physically drag you out. But they don't just evict you, they throw you into the most toxic, volatile, uninhabitable swamp they can find.
Right, assuming the environment will just do the dirty work for them.
Exactly. They expect you to disappear forever. But, and here's the hook, 10,000 years later, your old neighborhood is burning to the ground.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. A relentless gang of home invaders is wiping your old neighbors off the map, and just as they are facing total annihilation, you come back.
Because you didn't just survive the swamp.
No, you mastered it. You return with capabilities that look like magic.
Yeah.
And instead of watching their houses burn, you step in to save them.
It is such a remarkable narrative arc. I mean, the story begins with the Galactic Council, which is the oldest and most powerful alliance in the Milky Way. And they spend 3 brutal years dismantling the human empire.
3 whole years.
Yeah. And the Council's official reasoning is purely mathematical. They project humanity's trajectory and conclude that our ambition, our unpredictable nature, and, well, our rapid expansion are fundamental threats to galactic stability.
So after humanity falls, the Council gathers on their capital world of Aurelius. They seize the colonies, destroy the fleets, and issue that ultimate eviction notice.
Right.
They banish every surviving human beyond the edge of known space into this region known as the Void. And the source material describes the Void as, like, this graveyard of black nebulae, severe gravitational storms, and crushing anomalies.
It's completely lethal. No civilization has ever navigated it, let alone lived in it. So to the Council, this is an execution just wrapped in the bureaucracy of an exile.
Yeah, they basically wash their hands of it.
Exactly.
Ugh.
And for centuries, the Council assumes humanity is extinct. They eventually downgrade us from a legend to, just a mere historical footnote.
But they were wrong.
Very wrong. And we have to look at the mechanics of what the Council inadvertently triggered by doing this. By forcing humanity into the void, the Council created a severe evolutionary bottleneck.
Right, like in biology.
Yes, exactly. A bottleneck effect occurs when a population size is drastically reduced, leaving only those with specific survival traits to reproduce. So the humans who survived those gravitational storms and starvation, they weren't just lucky.
They were the tough ones.
They were the most resilient, hyper-adaptable, and crucially cooperative members of the species.
So they mapped the void, they learned how the anomalies function, and eventually they pushed completely through it and discovered a second untouched galaxy.
Which is an incredible feat of survival.
It really is. But I want to pause here and look at this from the Council's perspective, because put yourself in the room with those galactic leaders.
Okay. Yeah.
They see a species that, the minute the brakes are taken off, manages to cross an uncrossable barrier and conquer a virgin galaxy. So the Council wasn't acting out of irrational malice. They ran the numbers. They saw a species that consumes and expands at a terrifying rate. I mean, if I'm sitting on that council, prioritizing the safety of my own people, I'm voting for exile too. The fear seems entirely justified.
Well, the fear is entirely justified, but their methodology is the fatal flaw in their logic.
How so?
The Council diagnosed the problem correctly, but prescribed a solution that ultimately engineered their own obsolescence.
Oh, that's interesting.
Think about what constrained human progress in the Milky Way before the banishment. It was border disputes, resource scarcity, and endless political gridlock with other species.
Right, constant red tape and fighting.
Exactly. By banishing humanity, the Council removed every single one of those limiters. They subjected the survivors to a crucible that filtered out weakness, and then they dropped that hyper-optimized population into a sandbox containing infinite resources and zero enemies.
Wow. So the friction of galactic politics was just completely gone.
Precisely. Without internal friction or external threats, a species can redirect all its martial and political energy toward pure technological and societal advancement. The Council intended to bury humanity.
But they planted a seed instead.
Exactly. They placed them in the ultimate pressure cooker for exponential growth.
Which sets the stage for the crisis 10,000 years later. The Council has long forgotten us, but they are suddenly facing this existential threat from beyond the galaxy. A machine civilization known as the Devourers.
And they are terrifying.
Yeah. The source material describes them as harvesting entire planets and extinguishing stars just to fuel their armada. But their most terrifying trait isn't their size, it's their adaptability.
Right. Whatever weapon or strategy the Council employs, the Devourers analyze it, adapt to it, and neutralize it almost immediately.
They are like a cosmic superbug, you know, mutating against every antibiotic the Council synthesizes.
That's a perfect analogy. The Devourers represent an algorithmic nightmare because they don't have morale, they don't experience fear, and their rapid adaptation renders standard attrition warfare completely useless.
So the Council is losing badly.
Horribly. Within 200 years, half the Milky Way is sterilized. Civilizations are collapsing left and right, and the remaining worlds are flooded with refugees. The Galactic Council is staring down mathematical extinction. They simply cannot invent weapons faster than the Devourers can adapt to them.
They are entirely out of options. And then, right in the middle of this absolute despair, a transmission hits every single military frequency across the remaining galaxy.
The signal.
The signal. It is just 8 words wrong. We received your distress call. Humanity is coming.
Oh, man. Consider the profound psychological whiplash the Council experiences in that moment.
Right.
I mean, to the current generation of galactic leaders, humanity is just a boogeyman used to frighten children. They are facing cold, mechanical annihilation, only to be informed that their supposed saviors are the very monsters their ancestors condemned to death.
It's wild. But you know what really stands out to me about that 8-word signal?
What's that?
The complete absence of ego. It doesn't say, "We survived, prepare to submit." It doesn't gloat about the Council's failure. It is entirely matter of fact. Humanity is coming.
Yes, and that phrasing is deeply revealing of humanity's sociological evolution. You see, gloating is a symptom of insecurity. It is a demand for validation.
Oh, that makes sense.
A civilization that has spent 10 millennia mastering a pristine galaxy without the need for conflict no longer possesses that insecurity. The brevity of the signal demonstrates that they do not view the Council as rivals or masters to be defied. When a civilization possesses absolute, unquestionable capability, they no longer need to posture.
And that capability arrives in a form the galaxy can barely comprehend. Sensors detect millions of objects emerging from the void. The source text describes the Vanguard vessel not just as a large ship, but as a mobile artificial world larger than a star system.
It's unimaginable scale.
Yeah. Millions of these vessels pour into the Milky Way, physically blocking out the stars. The human flagship approaches Aurelius, the capital where the eviction was signed 10,000 years prior.
The Council must have been terrified.
Oh, absolutely. The Council leaders are bracing for a two-front war. They assume humanity is here to finish them off. But the human commander, Admiral Elena Ward of the United Human Dominion, states their intention clearly. She announces, "We did not return for revenge. We returned because this galaxy is still our home. Saving lives matters more than old grudges."
Now, Admiral Ward's statement introduces a radically evolved moral philosophy. But diplomacy requires leverage.
Right, talk is cheap.
Exactly. The Council needs proof of this goodwill. Yet logically, they also require an immediate demonstration of humanity's technological supremacy to understand the new hierarchy of the galaxy.
And they get that demonstration at a world called Karos. A massive devourer armada is laying siege to the planet. 20 separate Galactic Council fleets have already engaged this armada and been utterly decimated.
20 fleets wiped out.
Yeah, and humanity steps in and sends a single ship to handle the situation. Just one.
Which is insane to the Council.
Totally. The Council observers assume this single vessel is going to be instantly destroyed. But instead, the human ship deploys a localized gravitational field spanning the entire solar system.
A solar system-wide field.
Yes, it freezes every single devourer machine in place and then crushes them down into microscopic particles. The entire engagement from start to finish takes exactly 12 seconds.
It's brilliant. Let's examine the mechanics of what the human ship actually did at Keros, because it really illustrates the chasm between Council technology and human technology.
Yeah, please break that down.
So the Council uses conventional warfare, energy weapons, projectiles, things that attempt to pierce armor or disrupt shields. The Devourers easily adapt their armor to withstand those specific energy frequencies or physical impacts.
Right, because they are the ultimate adapters.
Exactly. But humanity, they don't even bother attacking the armor. They utilize space manipulation and time dilation. They alter the fundamental fabric of reality around the enemy.
But how does that bypass the adaptation, practically speaking?
Think of it like a microbe in a centrifuge. The microbe might develop a thicker cell wall to survive than an antibiotic. Right?
Yeah.
But if you put it in a centrifuge and multiply gravity by 10,000, the cell wall's thickness is irrelevant. The environment itself tears the organism apart.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. By manipulating gravity on a solar system scale, humanity changes the underlying physics of the battlefield. The Devourers cannot adapt their armor because the space-time their armor occupies is literally collapsing in on itself at a subatomic level.
That is just, if a species can actively rewrite the laws of physics, manipulate gravity on a whim, and erase an invincible armada in 12 seconds, to the Galactic Council, humanity must be entirely indistinguishable from deities.
From a practical standpoint, absolutely. Arthur C. Clarke's law states that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. To the Council, this is divine intervention.
Right.
But the critical narrative tension lies in the juxtaposition of Admiral Ward's actions. Humanity wields the brutal, reality-breaking efficiency of cosmic deities, yet they exercise the emotional restraint and empathy of monks.
They have the power to unmake the galaxy, but they use it strictly as a surgical tool to preserve life.
Precisely.
And they need every ounce of that reality-breaking power because the story immediately introduces a massive escalation. The Devourers destroyed at Kuros.
Yeah.
Those were merely the scouting parties.
Just the scout.
Just the scouts. A year later, the main machine intelligence arrives from intergalactic space. And the scale of this invasion force defies logic. Trillions of warships, planet-sized manufacturing hubs, artificial stars acting as power sources.
It's an overwhelming force.
It is. The threat level is so immense that even the United Human Dominion recognizes the danger. Admiral Ward warns the galaxy that this confrontation will dictate the survival of all biological life.
And this escalation is key because it forces humanity to reveal the true depth of their 10,000-year preparation.
Yeah, they have to show their full hand.
Right. Standard fleet tactics, even with humanity's localized gravity weapons, are mathematically insufficient against an enemy that brings trillions of self-replicating vessels and their own stellar infrastructure. So to counter this, humanity activates something they call the Horizon Gate.
The Horizon Gate. This is where the architectural scope of this deep dive truly shines. We are talking about a megastructure larger than thousands of combined star systems constructed at the edge of the galaxy.
It's mind-boggling.
It really is. And when activated, it doesn't just fire a weapon. It tears open a stable, multiversal portal directly to humanity's second galaxy, their new home.
A literal bridge between universes.
Exactly. And through that gate, the entire weight of an unrestricted 10-millennia-old civilization pours into the Milky Way. Millions of worlds worth of resources, endless fleets, and infinite logistical support flow through seamlessly. It's like if the Devourers showed up to a fight with an army and humanity responded by dropping an entire continent on the battlefield.
That's a great way to put it. And the mechanism of the Horizon Gate is crucial to understanding humanity's true evolution here, because weapons are relatively simple to design, all things considered.
Sure.
But building a stable gateway larger than thousands of star systems, that is an entirely different category of achievement. That is multiversal infrastructure.
Yeah, that takes a lot more than just some smart engineers.
Exactly. It requires a level of generational planning, resource management, and collective organizational focus that is almost impossible to comprehend. It proves that humanity didn't just spend their exile inventing better guns. They spent it building a unified, frictionless society capable of executing projects that span thousands of years without political interruption.
And it pays off. A massive 7-day, 7-night battle takes place across multiple realities. The logistics flowing through the Horizon Gate allow humanity to out-endure the Devourers. And ultimately, the machine civilization is eradicated.
The threat is gone.
The threat is gone, but defeating an invincible enemy creates a completely new, arguably more dangerous problem. Humanity now holds absolute unchecked power over the very institution that sentenced them to death.
Right, the Galactic Council. And here we arrive at the thematic climax of the source material. The war is over, and we are back on Arralis. The Galactic Council stands before Admiral Ward, and based on the entire recorded history of the Milky Way, the Council's leaders are anticipating the inevitable.
They think they're doomed.
They do. They expect punitive measures, violent subjugation, or at the very least, a hostile takeover of their governments, because conquest is the standard operating procedure for a victorious superpower.
But Admiral Ward looks at the Council and simply says, the past is over.
Just like that.
Yeah. The galactic leaders are stunned. They ask if humanity is truly forgiving them. And Ward responds by telling them that the most important lesson humanity learned during their exile wasn't how to manipulate gravity or build multiversal gates.
No.
The lesson was that carrying hatred for 10,000 years is a waste of time and energy.
It's profound. The Council expected retaliation, because retaliation is the language of fear, and fear is what drove them to banish humanity in the first place.
Right.
Ward's response shatters that paradigm. It reveals that humanity's ultimate triumph wasn't technological at all. Their true evolution was outgrowing the primitive, exhausting cycle of vengeance.
And choosing mercy in that moment requires a profound level of strength. I mean, annihilating the Council would have been effortless. They could have collapsed the space-time around Arralis and ended the old grudges in 12 seconds.
Easily.
But deciding to rebuild a broken galaxy alongside the people who tried to kill you, that is the ultimate demonstration of power. It's the ultimate flex. You don't need to dominate someone if you no longer fear them.
Exactly. By forgiving the Council, humanity actively breaks the historical cycle of preemptive violence. It fundamentally restructures galactic society. The Council recognizes the failure of their old methods and voluntarily dissolves their governing body.
And in its place, a new cooperative alliance is formed, with humanity acting as a foundational pillar. Former enemies become partners, ushering in an unprecedented era of peace.
It's a beautiful resolution.
It is. The Source 6 mentions a monument built on the anniversary of the Horizon Gate's activation, and the inscription carved into it perfectly summarizes the entire narrative. It reads, "They were banished beyond the edge of the galaxy. They could have returned as conquerors. Instead, they returned as heroes."
Wow.
Yeah. And the story ends with a lesson taught to every child in the new alliance.
Oh.
Never underestimate humanity, because when they disappear into the dark, they're usually building something bigger.
It is a narrative that continually shifts its scale.
Yep.
It starts as a story of survival, it scales up into a study of infinite technological progression, and it concludes as a philosophical argument for empathy.
Yeah, beautifully said.
The Devourers represented the ultimate endpoint of pure, emotionless logic. A machine intelligence consuming everything. Humanity survived by embracing the exact opposite, prioritizing empathy and collective preservation over logical retaliation.
Which brings us to the final takeaway for you to consider today. The entire premise of this deep dive relies on a specific catalyst. Humanity only achieved this godlike technological and philosophical state because they were completely isolated.
Right.
They were forcibly removed from their enemies, from border disputes, and from the daily friction of dealing with difficult neighbors.
The void served as the initial filter, but the absolute lack of external conflict in that second galaxy was the true engine of their ascension. Without neighbors to fight, all their energy had to be directed inward toward internal harmony and outward expansion.
So, applying that to our reality right now, how much of our collective potential is being burned up by our own internal friction?
A lot, probably.
Yeah. We are constantly engaged in neighborhood disputes, political gridlock, ideological warfare, historical grudges. We spend an enormous amount of energy simply trying to outmaneuver each other.
It's exhausting.
It is. So if we weren't so consumed by the friction of our own conflicts, what kind of horizon gates could we be building today? It's a question worth turning over in your mind.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.